Congress just passed sweeping immigration reform that will change everything about green cards, visas, and citizenship in 2026. Some pathways are now faster, others are completely closed, and millions of people have no idea how this affects them. But here's what nobody's talking about. Citizens from 7 specific countries are positioned to benefit massively from these changes. Let me explain. Welcome back to Immigration Fresh Updates, where we bring you the immigration news that actually shapes your future. Today's video is urgent. Congress just passed the most significant immigration reform legislation in over a decade, and it takes effect throughout 2026. We're talking about major changes to employment-based green cards, family sponsorship timelines, visa processing procedures, and citizenship pathways. Some changes make things easier, others create new obstacles, and most people don't understand how they're affected. Here's the critical part. Not everyone is impacted equally. Citizens from certain countries, based on diplomatic relationships, trade agreements, and bilateral cooperation, are positioned to win big under the new system. In this video, I'm revealing the 7 countries whose citizens will benefit most from the 2026 immigration reform. If you're from one of these nations, you need to understand your advantages. Let's begin. Number 7. Philippines, the healthcare hero with new priority pathways. Let's start with the Philippines. The 2026 immigration reform includes specific provisions that directly benefit Filipino immigrants, particularly those in healthcare professions. Congress recognized that the U.S. healthcare system depends heavily on Filipino nurses, doctors, and caregivers, and the new law reflects that reality. Under the reform, healthcare workers from countries with established track records, like the Philippines, receive expedited visa processing and additional employment-based green card allocations. If you're a Filipino nurse with a U.S. job offer, your pathway to a green card just became significantly faster, potentially cutting years off previous timelines. The reform also addresses the massive backlog in family-based immigration from the Philippines. Additional visa numbers have been allocated specifically to reduce waiting times for Filipino families separated for decades. While backlogs won't disappear overnight, the new law provides real relief. The diplomatic relationship between the U.S. and Philippines is strong: military allies, economic partners, and cultural friends. The Filipino-American community is one of the largest and most politically active diaspora groups, which created congressional support for these provisions. Filipino professionals in healthcare, education, IT, and skilled trades are in constant demand across America. The job market for Filipino workers remains robust, and U.S. employers actively recruit from the Philippines. The trust factor is high. Filipinos have an established reputation for hard work, professional competence, and successful integration into American communities. If you're Filipino, the 2026 reform recognizes your contributions to America. New pathways, faster processing, and reduced backlogs mean your American dream is more achievable than ever before. Number 6. Poland, the rising European star with enhanced access. Polish citizens are significant beneficiaries of the 2026 immigration reform. Poland's relationship with the United States has strengthened dramatically in recent years. Close NATO partnership, security cooperation, and economic ties. And the new immigration law reflects this growing alliance. The reform includes provisions for expedited visa processing for citizens of countries with enhanced bilateral relationships. Poland is explicitly included in this category. What this means practically: if you're Polish and applying for work visas, student visas, or employment-based green cards, your processing times will be faster and approval rates higher than many other nationalities. Polish professionals in engineering, IT, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and skilled trades are in growing demand in the U.S. job market. The reform makes it easier for U.S. employers to sponsor Polish workers, particularly in industries designated as critical to national interests. The student-to-work-to-green card pathway for Polish citizens is also strengthened. Polish students at U.S. universities will benefit from extended optional practical training (OPT) periods in certain fields, giving them more time to find employers who will sponsor green cards. Family sponsorship for Polish citizens becomes more efficient under the reform. Poland doesn't face the massive backlogs that some countries experience, so Polish family-based applications move relatively quickly, and the reform makes them even faster. The trust factor is significant. Poland's loyalty as a NATO ally and democratic partner creates goodwill that extends into immigration policy. If you're Polish, the 2026 reform recognizes Poland's importance as a U.S. ally. Your pathways to America are expanding, processing is accelerating, and opportunities are growing. Number 5. Israel, the strategic partner with priority status. Israeli citizens are major winners in the 2026 immigration reform. The U.S.-Israel relationship is one of the closest in the world, and the new law includes specific provisions that benefit Israeli professionals, particularly in technology and security-related fields. The reform creates a new strategic partner fast track for citizens of countries with exceptional security and technology partnerships with the U.S. Israel is the primary beneficiary of this provision. Israeli professionals in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, defense technology, biotechnology, and advanced engineering will receive expedited visa processing and priority consideration for employment-based green cards. The pathway works like this. If you're Israeli and working in a designated strategic field, your employer can sponsor you for a green card with significantly reduced processing times, potentially as short as 18 months from start to finish, compared to years or decades for other nationalities in similar categories. Israeli students at U.S. universities also benefit. The reform extends work authorization for Israeli STEM graduates and creates direct pathways from student status to employment-based green cards in critical technology fields. Family sponsorship for Israeli citizens moves efficiently. Israel doesn't face country-specific backlogs, so family-based applications process relatively quickly. The U.S.-Israel relationship encompasses security, intelligence sharing, technology collaboration, and deep economic ties. This partnership creates political support for favorable immigration treatment. Israeli entrepreneurs and startup founders also benefit from new visa categories that make it easier to establish businesses in the U.S. and transition to permanent residency. If you're Israeli, the 2026 reform recognizes your strategic value. Your skills in critical technology fields are in demand, and your pathways to America are prioritized. Number 4. South Korea, the tech powerhouse with expanded pathways. South Korean citizens are significant beneficiaries of the 2026 immigration reform, particularly in technology and advanced manufacturing sectors. The reform explicitly recognizes South Korea's critical role in global supply chains and technology innovation. The new law creates additional employment-based green card allocations for workers in critical industries, including semiconductors, advanced manufacturing, AI, and biotechnology. South Korean professionals dominate these fields, which means substantially faster green card processing for South Koreans working in these sectors. If you're a South Korean engineer, researcher, or technical professional working for companies like Samsung, SK Hynix, LG, or other major corporations with U.S. operations, your pathway to a green card just became significantly shorter. The reform cuts through backlogs and provides priority processing. South Korean students at U.S. universities, one of the largest international student populations, benefit from extended OPT periods in STEM fields and clearer pathways from student status to employment to permanent residency. The U.S.-South Korea alliance is rock solid. Military partnership, economic cooperation, and shared democratic values. This relationship creates political support for favorable immigration treatment of South Korean citizens. Family sponsorship for South Koreans also improves under the reform. While South Korea faces some backlogs, grouped with China for certain visa categories, the reform provides relief that reduces waiting times. The job market for South Korean professionals remains exceptionally strong. U.S. employers actively recruit South Korean talent, particularly in tech, engineering, and healthcare. If you're South Korean, the 2026 reform recognizes your contributions to critical industries. Your skills are in demand, your processing is prioritized, and your pathway to America is expanding. Segment 7. Country number 3. India. 180 to 260 words. Number 3. India. The high-skilled giant with historic relief. Indian citizens are perhaps the single largest beneficiary group of the 2026 immigration reform. For decades, Indian professionals faced crushing employment-based green card backlogs, with waiting times stretching 10, 20, even 50-plus years. The new law provides historic relief. The reform dramatically increases the number of employment-based green cards available and eliminates per-country caps in certain categories. For Indian professionals in STEM fields, healthcare, and advanced research, this means green card waiting times could drop from decades to 3 to 5 years, a life-changing reduction. If you're an Indian software engineer, data scientist, doctor, researcher, or IT professional currently on an H-1B visa, the 2026 reform is the breakthrough you've been waiting for. The pathway from H-1B to green card, which was essentially blocked for Indians, is now opening. Indian students at U.S. universities also benefit enormously. Extended OPT periods, direct pathways to employment visas, and faster green card processing create a clear route from diploma to permanent residency. The U.S.-India relationship is strengthening. Trade partnerships, security cooperation, technology collaboration, and people-to-people ties are all expanding. This creates political support for immigration reform that benefits Indians. The Indian-American community is politically powerful, economically successful, and actively advocated for these reforms. Family sponsorship backlogs also receive relief, though progress will be gradual. The U.S. tech sector, healthcare system, and research institutions depend heavily on Indian talent. This dependency creates economic arguments that drove the reform. If you're Indian, the 2026 reform represents justice and recognition. Your decades of patience are paying off. Number 2. Canada, the neighbor with enhanced mobility. Canadian citizens are major winners in the 2026 immigration reform. The new law includes provisions that make cross-border mobility between the U.S. and Canada even easier, recognizing the deeply integrated relationship between these two countries. The reform creates a new North American professional mobility pathway that allows Canadian professionals to move between work visas and green cards with unprecedented ease. If you're Canadian and working in the U.S. on a TN visa, the transition to permanent residency just became significantly smoother and faster, potentially as short as 12 months. Canadian professionals in healthcare, engineering, technology, finance, education, and skilled trades benefit immediately. The reform recognizes that Canadian credentials are equivalent to U.S. credentials and streamlines verification processes. Canadian students at U.S. universities gain extended work authorization and direct pathways to employment-based green cards. The cultural similarity and educational compatibility make Canadians highly desirable to U.S. employers. Family sponsorship for Canadians is already fast, but the reform makes it even faster. Cross-border family ties are recognized as fundamentally different from other international relationships. The U.S.-Canada relationship is unique. Longest undefended border, integrated economies, shared security systems, and unmatched bilateral trust. The reform reflects this special relationship. The trust factor is absolute. Background checks for Canadians are completed quickly through shared databases, and approval rates are exceptionally high. If you're Canadian, the 2026 reform makes your pathway to permanent U.S. residency smoother than ever. The border is less of a barrier and more of a bridge. Your mobility is enhanced, your processing is expedited, and your opportunities are expanding. Segment 9. Country number 1. Mexico. 180 to 260 words. Number 1. Mexico, the neighbor with revolutionary transformation. And here we are. Number 1. Mexico. The 2026 immigration reform includes the most transformational provisions for Mexican citizens in modern U.S. immigration history. This isn't just policy change. It's recognition of an inseparable bilateral relationship. The reform creates a historic North American family reunification initiative that dramatically accelerates family-based immigration from Mexico. Waiting times for Mexican families separated by immigration backlogs, some waiting 20-plus years, will be cut by 50 to 70%. Additional visa allocations, streamlined processing, and priority consideration mean millions of Mexican families will reunite years sooner. Employment-based pathways also improve significantly. The reform creates new work visa categories specifically designed for Mexican professionals in industries where U.S.-Mexico cooperation is critical: agriculture, construction, hospitality, healthcare, manufacturing, and skilled trades. These visas include direct pathways to permanent residency. Mexican students at U.S. universities benefit from extended work authorization and clearer routes to employment sponsorship and green cards. The U.S.-Mexico economic relationship is enormous. USMCA, formerly NAFTA, integrated supply chains and cross-border commerce worth billions daily. This economic interdependence creates political support for immigration reform. The Mexican-American community is the largest Latino population in the U.S., politically powerful, and actively advocated for these reforms. Cultural, familial, and economic ties between the U.S. and Mexico are deeper than any other bilateral relationship. The reform finally acknowledges this reality. If you're Mexican, the 2026 reform represents historic progress toward justice. Decades of separation are ending, economic opportunities are expanding, and family reunification is accelerating. This is your moment. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? How does the 2026 immigration reform affect you? Are you from one of these 7 countries? Drop your country in the comments. So there you have it. The 7 countries whose citizens benefit most from the historic 2026 U.S. immigration reform. Yes, the system is changing. Yes, it's complex. But if you're from one of these nations, these changes work in your favor. Faster processing, new pathways, reduced backlogs, and expanded opportunities mean your American dream is more achievable than ever. If this video helped you understand how reform affects you, please hit that like button, subscribe to Immigration Fresh Updates, and share with anyone who needs this information. Which change surprised you most? Let me know below. Stay hopeful. Your time is coming.